This week on The Inside Story, American journalists jailed in Russia with no end in sight, the hope for a free media in Venezuela, and what's holding it back from becoming reality. Frontline journalists reporting on the third year of Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and see the creative ways reporters from Ghana and Nigeria expand their viewership. Now, on The Inside Story, a free press matters, countering censorship.
Hi, I'm Jessica Dury, VOA's Press Freedom Editor. Welcome to The Inside Story, a free press matters. In an election year for dozens of countries, the media play an essential role in safeguarding democracy. But data shows civil and political liberties are declining. The media can serve as public watchdog, pushing for transparency and investigating wrongdoing to hold officials accountable. We take a look at the innovative ways journalists are holding power to account. But first to Russia, where an attack on a concert venue in Moscow left more than 100 dead. Even as the militant group Islamic State claims responsibility, President Vladimir Putin has implied, without evidence, that Ukraine was involved, a charge Kyiv and Western intelligence reject. The case underscores how a lack of independent media inside Russia is leaving audiences with unchecked, unverified information. All this as Wall Street Journal reporter Evan Gershkovich marks 1 year in a Russian prison. Evan's one of 2 American journalists detained in Russia. Analysts say their jailing sent a warning from Moscow for Western media to stay out. Christina Vfan has the story.
In a Moscow courtroom, American journalist Evan Gershkovich is told he will spend another 3 months behind bars. But U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Lynn Tracy, says it is time for Moscow to let Gershkovich go.
The Russian government has yet to present any evidence to substantiate its accusations. No justification for Evan's continued detention, and no explanation as to why Evan, doing his job as a journalist, constituted a crime.
Ever since his arrest on assignment in a city about 1,600 kilometers east of Moscow on March 29 last year, his family and colleagues have been pushing for the Wall Street Journal reporter's release. The past year has been a constant stream of interviews, news briefings, and private meetings, including with President Joe Biden.
Waiting about 2 weeks now for the most recent
Holding
one.
back tears, Danielle Gershkovich describes the toll on the family and the letters that she writes to keep her brother company.
I think we're just mainly trying to support one another and make each other laugh. And I'm just in awe of him.
Russia accuses Gershkovich of espionage, charges that he and his paper deny. Moscow courts repeatedly denied him bail, even as the U.S. declares him wrongfully detained. The general counsel for his media outlet says the legal process is opaque. They must wait for Russia to say when the case can move forward.
And at some point they will pivot to say, okay, the investigation's done and we can do a trial. We just don't know when that will be.
For the family, the waiting is hard.
Yeah, of course we follow the news every day, but it can be just up and down emotionally. So it's just best to just continue to stay focused on this eventual goal and just take it day by day.
If convicted, Gershkovich could face up to 20 years in prison. But he is not the only American journalist detained in Russia. Alsu Kurmasheva, an editor for VOA's sister network RFE-RL, has spent more than 5 months in prison. The American-Russian journalist faces multiple charges, including failing to register as a foreign agent. If convicted, she could face up to 15 years in prison. In Gershkovich's case, his media company says lawyers inside Russia keep them updated as much as possible.
And they're great, brave lawyers. There's a limit on what they can say because of the nature of the charges. They're just not allowed to talk about it, given the nature of alleged espionage, which we think, again, is bogus. But those are the nature of the charges, and so they're really not able to talk much about the substance of the case.
When American TV personality Tucker Carlson interviewed President Vladimir Putin, the Russian leader implied that Moscow would be willing to free Gershkovich in exchange of a convicted killer held in Germany. Since then, there have been no public updates on the diplomatic negotiations. Meanwhile, even Gershkovich's family, friends, and colleagues keep hoping for his prompt release, amplifying his case to the world, highlighting that when authorities in Russia or any country detain a journalist, it has a chilling effect. Foreign media may leave, local reporters may self-censor, and audiences are left in the dark. Cristina Caicedo-Smith, VOA News.
When authoritarian countries imprison or restrict media, audiences are left in the dark. So, when a group of journalists found media curtailed and internet blocked across large parts of Venezuela, they came up with a roadmap to dodging censorship. Here's Veronica Villafane.
Navigating the mountain roads on the outskirts of Venezuela's capital, Caracas, Arimóvil delivers news to places where regular media no longer travel.
The main idea of Arimóvil is to cover parts of the news deserts that exist in our capital city and in our country.
Around a fifth of Venezuelans have limited access to information, and media is restricted, says media watchdog the Press and Society Institute of Venezuela. Some areas have little or no internet access. Elsewhere, radio stations have closed or are censored.
In Venezuela, there are more than 50 laws that restrict, criminalize, and block free and independent journalism in the country. The Arimóvil is an alternative to go where the people are, to keep them informed, which is our job.
Their customers appear eager for the deliveries. A carnival-like atmosphere sweeps Turgua, a rural community about an hour outside Caracas. As the Arimóvil team set up, children and adults gather, music plays, and the reporters get to work. In small towns like this, residents say keeping informed is a struggle.
Normally in rural areas is very difficult because sometimes the internet is very slow, or sometimes in many places there is no internet. And normally you can see a television station, but not everything is there.
That's where Arimóvil comes in. The mobile news group is focused on helping people like Pacheco and her cousin Kelinzer Pacheco stay informed. They also teach people how to detect sources of mis- or disinformation.
There are some news programs that tell lies. They do not convey the truth.
The idea for Arimóvil came from an alliance of 3 news websites that Venezuela's media regulator, Conatel, frequently blocked. Media watchdogs say Venezuela has a history of blocking access to independent news, and that the country's journalists work amid restrictions and threats of legal or physical attack.
Our target is the citizen. We decided not to stay put and stay censored, but to go look for the citizen, bringing our information to the neighborhoods.
By also reporting on problems in the neighborhoods they visit, the team helps form a bond with the community.
There is no place where residents can report problems in their communities. The Arimóvil will allow or already allows the possibility for residents to come forward to make their complaint, to talk about their needs.
As night draws in, people gather in the street to watch videos on issues affecting their country, including disinformation. Arimóvil has been broadcasting to towns like this for 6 months now, a bright light in a dark period for the media. For Adriana Núñez Rabascal in Caracas, Venezuela, Veronica Villafane, VOA News.
Global freedoms may be declining, but journalists are committed to defending the right to a free press. In Nigeria, student journalists are leading efforts to hold public officials accountable. A media non-profit is training them to investigate and report to the community. Timothy Obiezu has more.
James Akbarshe arrives for a checkup at the community medical center in Dadere, but it's not for his health. The student journalist is there to see how well the government-run center in Nigeria's central Nasarawa state is working. It's part of an initiative called Udeme, an Ibibio word for My Share. It sends student journalists, known as U-monitors, to investigate public projects and hold authorities accountable.
Sometimes you travel to those communities where those projects have been awarded, you discover that those residents don't want to talk to you because they have no idea of those projects. So you face challenges, maybe sometimes threats to your life. When a lawmaker find out or individual find out you are doing a story that will implicate him.
The Media Non-Profit Center for Journalism, Innovation and Development, or CJID, launched Udeme in 2018. It recruits about 100 students like Akbashi each year. They track public infrastructure projects like the construction of schools and hospitals. And they talk to residents about what they find.
So our youth monitors are fluent in the local dialect in those places. So when they go on radio shows, they speak in those local dialects so that people can understand the relevance of the topic that we're talking about. And we see them calling in after the program.
Nigeria ranks 145th out of 180 countries on the Transparency International Corruption Perceptions Index. The CGID says ignorance is often why public officials are not held accountable. At a visit to Nigeria's Independent Corrupt Practices Commission in February, authorities pledged their support.
The issue of corruption and corrupt practices is a problem. We will always continue to work with you.
CJID says its approach brings change and could be a model other media should follow. The initiative brings results. When Akbashi first visited this health center, it was not operational. A few months after he reported on it, the government opened the hospital to the community, a small step to holding public officials accountable. Timothy Obiezu, VOA News, Abuja, Nigeria.
In countries where media are restricted or repressed, many are forced to flee. Ksenia Tokova spoke with Melina Rubin, an award-winning Russian journalist, about life and work in exile.
Is it possible to be a real journalist in Russia right now?
Of course not. Inside Russia, you cannot be a journalist. By the way, not only political journalist or investigative journalist, but any kind of journalist. That's the problem, and that's the worst news. What I mean, for a long time, for the last year, somebody conceded that maybe, of course, you should be a little bit, well, not polite to authority, but you shouldn't cross some lines, you shouldn't speak of some prohibited topics like Putin's lovers. Example, if you read Russian newspapers today or yesterday after the election campaign, you will see that all the newspapers have to be proud of Vladimir Putin, have to say that that was a great success, it was a great election campaign. And before that, our viewers should understand that before that, of course, television was something of a propaganda, but newspapers could be, they had lines, but they were not the total propaganda. Unfortunately, if you really want to be a journalist these days, you have to leave the country.
What's next? What does it mean for the journalism in Russia and for the journalists in Russia?
So, what does it mean for journalists? Very obvious. It means that we can anticipate everything. We can anticipate any kind of repressions. We can anticipate that journalism will be, well, it is already banned, but it is a sign. Just Putin's result during the election campaign, I perceive it like, hi journalists, you are not welcomed in Russia anymore. You even shouldn't think of returning back to your home country. And well, most of independent journalists are in exile these days, and we do not welcome you. You cannot work at all. The good news, there are good news. The good news is that still we are able to survive, and not as a people, but as a media. It's a shocking for me. I would never think that I would be able to work from abroad. I would think that I thought before, when I had to leave Russia, that maybe I need to change what am I doing. I'm thinking need to, well, I want to be a Russian journalist, but I thought that it wouldn't be possible. But it is possible still, and it is possible. It's a miracle that a lot of journalists went through this, and they are conducting great investigation, revealing the truth about Vladimir Putin. That's great news.
Thank you so much, Mikhail, for your insights. It was a pleasure. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
In Afghanistan, young journalists, especially women, are up against many challenges. Barred from higher education and with limited opportunities to work, many have to leave their homes and dreams of a bright career behind. Here's Shaista Sadatlami.
Nadia Moment had it all. A job presenting news at local broadcaster in Ekos TV, and her law studies at Nangarhar University in Jalalabad. Now, she has neither. When the Taliban took power, they barred women from studies beyond primary school.
When the Taliban came, I could not continue my education. As well as being a journalist, I wanted to become an attorney. But with the Taliban's return, I could not finish my studies.
Worse, as a journalist and a woman, she feared for her safety.
There were problems from the very beginning. I was targeted 2 times. They tried to kill me, but they failed to kill me. My colleagues were killed.
Leaving behind her home and dreams of media and legal career, the 20-year-old is now in Peshawar, Pakistan. Moman's story is not unique. Since the Taliban's return, thousands of journalists have lost their jobs. More than 80% of female journalists have left the profession, according to Reporters Without Borders.
In countries like Iran and Afghanistan and other communities where women are targeted for being in public spaces, where their rights are particularly threatened, we see the basic inability of them to be part of the news industry. Therefore, we are missing that voice.
At Ekos TV, Moman reported on current affairs and entertainment. She enjoyed working on shows focused on women's issues. But she says the reporting is no longer possible.
Those journalists who still live there are facing many problems. Every day, every week, every month, a new restriction is imposed on them. They will be forced to flee their country to breathe in peace.
Moman and one of her brothers left Afghanistan to find security. But Pakistan has started forcibly deporting Afghans who lack documents or overstay visas. Moman has a visa, but says life feels uncertain.
I came to Pakistan to have peace of mind, at least to be away from what troubled and threatened me every day. But I don't have peace of mind here either.
Moman says she wants to find a new refuge, somewhere she can live in peace, finish her studies, and raise the voices of Afghan women. For Muskasape in Peshawar, Pakistan, Shaista Sadatlami, VOA News.
As Russia's war in Ukraine enters its 3rd year, Celia Mendoza shares her experiences of reporting from the ground.
As dawn breaks in Kharkiv in February, it can be easy to forget how close Russia's war is to this vibrant Ukrainian city. In just a few seconds, everything can change.
Attention! Air raid alert. Proceed to the nearest shelter.
As you can hear, we have an air alert that is going on right now as we're doing an interview. And this is the reality that all the people that are here are facing. With the Russian threat constant, I came prepared when I traveled to Ukraine in February, packing safety gear including a heavy bulletproof vest and a helmet. But what I couldn't prepare for is the emotion of walking the streets of Izium, a city the Russians occupied for 160 days at the start of the 2022 invasion. The mayor, Valery Marchenko, tells me that after the Russians left, Ukrainian citizens found a mass grave. In it, more than 470 bodies. People killed by bombings, shelling, even torture. The city's residents endure a lot, like 103-year-old Olga Marna. From her humble house, Olga recalls an explosion that rocked her home, leaving her temporarily deaf and with blurry vision. She remains positive and smiling despite fears that the Russians could return. Of all the interviews in my years as journalist, Olga's stands out. At night, I think of her often and of her resiliency. Traveling onto Bucha, the road is littered with the scenes of war. In the city, Father Andriy Halovin reads the names of those killed, over 500 names, memorialized at the site where they discovered dozens of bodies in 2 long trenches. The memories of these cities will forever be carried in my memory. But still, life goes on. Our field producer, Nicole Goldman, knows where there is destruction and also hope, like this cafe in Irpin. The city is coming back to life, says Goldman, but the memory of what happened casts a shadow.
You understand that this place is a massacre. You understand that this place has so many of human tragedies that you feel a bit guilty to have fun here, to drink coffee, to just walk around, because you understand how many war crimes were committed here, how many people died here.
And as the war grinds into its 3rd year, Ukrainians are watching every development closely while ensuring they will never forget the sacrifices that got them this far. Celia Mendoza, VOA News, Kyiv, Ukraine.
Journalism not only informs, it also helps give a platform to marginalized or minority groups. In Ghana, an award-winning journalist is teaching students at a deaf school about photography so they can be their own storytellers. Here's Senatord.
At 17 years old, Job Nimbi has never spoken a word. Born with speech and hearing disabilities, Nimbi and others at this Ghana school instead found their voices through photography. Nimbi says he is happy to share his life journey with the world through photos, and he wants to inspire others who live with disabilities. But Nimbi and his peers face significant challenges, including discrimination. Other hurdles are limited training and resources. Ghana's Statistical Service estimates only a fraction of the children with a hearing disability are able to pursue a higher education. Yet, Nimbi remains resolute.
Now, what I'm learning and focusing on is to become a doctor.
Photography was introduced to the Savalugu School for the Deaf by Geoffrey Buta. The award-winning photojournalist is on a campaign to amplify marginalized voices through visual storytelling. His project, Photo for Change, has one focus.
Train people, assist people to tell their own story in the community they find themselves, and as well as using photography or visuals to address societal issues.
Buta's Photo Club offers classes on photojournalism. In less than a year, students can take professional quality pictures by themselves and write captions.
So with the power of photography, they can tell stories around them. They can become visual journalists in the future. They can become broadcasters.
The teachers also benefit, with the club providing easy access to visual learning materials.
You have seen a picture somewhere that has connection with what you are going to deliver, the lesson you're going to deliver. And so you use the camera to take that photo, bring it to the class, and then show it to the children. Then you can develop your lesson from there.
Buta plans to expand his project to 10 more schools in Ghana and create exhibitions to showcase students' work. Other plans include setting up internship with media outlets. And in the long term, he wants to inspire a generation of students with disabilities to become award-winning photojournalists. Sana Nutod, VOA News, Savalugu, Ghana.
That's all for now. Thanks for watching. For the latest news, you can log on to voanews.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at VOA News. To get all the press freedom related content, you can follow me on X at Jessica Dorit. Catch up on past episodes at our free streaming service, VOA+. I'm Jessica Dorit. We'll see you next week for The Inside Story.